Alright guys, welcome back to another Kingdoms Reborn video. Today I'm going to be going over the world generation settings. Now nothing is set in stone, this game is still in early access, and so some of these things might change, and honestly they're kind of finicky. They're going to be very hard to be precise, but we're going to be trying as best as we can. So for our map seed, let's do a map seed of 1. And we're going to do everything at medium for the very beginning with no AI, difficulty easy, difficulty's not going to matter. We're going to generate the world and see what it looks like with everything set at medium. Alright, so this is the world with everything at medium. There's pretty equal parts to land as there is to sea. And you can kind of tell that there's, a decent amount of desert. There's a couple rivers here and there. Here's a big section of desert. The jungle biome right here is pretty wide. That's a pretty big jungle area. Let's see what else we got. There is a big tundra province down here. The tundra is special because there's no trees whatsoever. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take a screenshot of this world right here, and then we're gonna be able to overlay it with another one, so you can kind of see the difference. All right, so I just brought the screenshot up on a second monitor, and I will leave it up in the corner somewhere so you can see. This map is going to have the sea level of low. So without moving, we are going to zoom all the way out and see what we can find that is different. So looking at the overlay that I have, you can tell there is a lot of desert. A ton of desert has shown up just because the sea level is low and I didn't change the moisture level at all. So there's going to be lots of land, lots of desert, and pretty much the same amount of trees, which is something to consider, something to think about. There actually might be less trees. But so let's take this middle area right here for an example. On the overlay, you can see that there is it's an island of jungle, and it's all jungle. There's no savanna right here at all, which now there is a savanna. I'm not quite sure why that is the case. And so we're going to do the same thing now. With the sea level, we're going to go very high. And as you can probably guess, there's going to be very little land at all. So zooming all the way out, there was this island right here that was the jungle province. Now we had a huge island over here, and now there's pretty much nothing. There's no desert, no tundra. Well, I mean, there's a tiny forest up here, maybe a tiny tundra down here, but nothing big enough to where you can build on. So that is going to be the sea level. We're going to set this back to medium, but now we're going to do the moisture level, very dry. So we're going to generate this one. All right, this is what that world looks like. It is the exact same landmass, the exact same pattern, but everything is dry. There is equal amounts of land to water as there is in the first world that was all medium, but now there's just a ton of desert and there's only trees next to where the rivers are. This is good if you want like a desert challenge map or a savanna province, which I have done a savanna challenge before, which I do want to do another one, but I had an absurd amount of animals just like this. If you build an area like this and you just throw down some hunting gatherers, you will have the easiest time surviving on deity. You will have more food than you will know what to do with. do the same thing, but now we're going to do very wet. And as you can guess, it's going to be the same exact landmass, but now there is zero desert whatsoever. You'll notice that the snow is at the very same level. The snow does not move. The snow will never go higher up in the world or lower, like from the top. But everything is the same. There is just no desert when the moisture level is high. And you will also notice there is no savanna. The savanna has completely disappeared in this world. So now, that was the moisture level. The temperature level, if we go down to very low, generate this world, land mass is going to be exactly the same, but the temperature is extremely low, and there's not a whole lot of difference in this modifier. I've tested this one a couple times, and this is the exact same world that we generated when everything was medium. So I can check here, the temperature is -5 to 30. Go ahead, new game, temperature very high this time. Generate the same world. So it was -5 to 30. If I click here, the temperature is still -5 to 30. The snow is right at the same level, the same amount of desert, the same amount of everything. I do not know if there is any difference with this modifier just yet. So we'll take that back to medium. Mountain density, that's going to be pretty self-explanatory. If I generate the world, you will find that there are very few mountains in the world. Now there was a huge rock right here, which is now gone. And I think it was right here, right on this section. There was a huge mountain, now it's gone. Now it's just one guy right here. You will notice if you look back on the overlay that I have up top, this island right here is all trees, but now it is pretty much a lone mountain. So some of the generation is not the exact same. On this setting, some of the mountains will appear where there were no mountains before, even though we lowered the density. So I'm not quite sure how this one works just yet. Alright, so now this is very high. If you look at the overlay, honestly, there's not a huge difference. For having very dense mountain ranges, especially if you look over here, many of these mountains right here were not here before, but there's also a lot more desert than there was before, at least in this area. If you look on the right over here, some of the gems have moved places, and some of the resources have moved. I guess the biggest thing with this modifier is like this area down here. If I zoom in a little bit, this would have been a very good area to build, but now you're not going to be able to build hardly anywhere because this whole area right here is going to be mountains, and you're not going to be able to build close to it. So it is going to take up quite a bit of your prime building real estate. Now if we do just something crazy, let's just do a large, very low, actually this wouldn't quite make sense, very low sea level and very wet. Let's do very low and very dry. If I zoom out right here, you can see there is a lot of land. A ton of land, a ton of mountains everywhere, very dry. It kind of makes sense for the modifiers that we picked. Now if I do that same world, but I'm going to do the moisture let's see, if I do the moisture very wet, where there was a lot of desert. Alright, so when I change that setting, you can see everything is exactly the same as it was, the same mountains, same area, but there's very little desert. On the big maps, even though I put the sea level is low and the moisture is very wet, the world is big enough to where it will generate some desert, which is going to be nice, especially if you're playing on deity. It's going to give you a lot of options of where to build and where to expand your other colonies to. So yeah, that was a very quick guide into all the different settings, going over again real quick. The sea level is going to dictate how much land and how much, or I guess how much water there is going to be in your world. It doesn't affect the, or it does affect the mountains a little bit, but not very much. The moisture level is going to affect how much desert there is. If you do very dry, there's going to be lots of desert. Very wet, there's going to be very little desert. Temperature I have found to have no effect. The mountain density is going to keep a lot of the big mountains. If you have it on very high, or if you have it on very low, you know, the mountains are just going to be randomized in different areas, in different places. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Like, these settings are not finalized. They're probably going to change as the game is developed more and more. And if there is an update to the world generation, I will be happy to do some tests and figure out what I can test out. Thanks for watching. If you'd enjoyed this video, like and comment, leave a suggestion on something you want to see in the future. And this has been KeyBo, and we will catch you in the next one.